It's a pleasure to be here today to share our digital QMS journey with you. I've been at Kimberly-Clark for about 24 years, and in that time I've been in quality, I've been in supply chain, and I've been in IT roles, and I've been fortunate to have been part of this journey since the very beginning. So let me tell you a little bit about Kimberly-Clark. We make consumer and professional products. We have about 45,000 employees, over 200 distribution centers, and 83 manufacturing locations around the world. Our products are sold in 175 countries, and a fun fact for you is that 25% of the world's population uses our products every day. So that's a little bit about Kimberly-Clark. Let me tell you about our ETQ footprint. We use ETQ for quality, and we have over 40 modules up and running, and that includes a lot of the quality processes that Rob mentioned, like complaint handling and CAPA, document control, training, audit, supplier quality management. But we also use ETQ for safety. We recognize that our friends in environment, health, and safety also have management systems that are very similar to quality's. So they have needs for document control and audit, and instead of non-conformance management, they have incident management and so forth. So we wanted to find a tool that could work for both and not have our plants using one tool to support the quality processes like document control and CAPA and audit, and having our plant shop floor also have to learn another tool for safety and environment, document control, training, audit, and so forth. So we brought those two together. Besides those two, we also have over 3,000 suppliers that are directly connected to our ETQ system with us, so they can collaborate and take part in our quality processes. I'll tell you a story of one of those processes later. So let me take you back in time to the early 2000s when our journey first started. We didn't have a standard QMS in place. All of our business units had their own QMS, and they were doing things a bit differently. And we didn't have an enterprise tool to support these processes either. So we were doing a lot of them manually. Some of our plants decided to build their own systems, so we actually had quality managers at our plants that on the side were building IT tools out of Access databases and old Lotus Notes software to support CAPA processes and non-conformance reporting processes, taking away from their normal job. And then, of course, spending time supporting those systems and improving those systems. That was happening all over the world for us because we didn't have an enterprise tool. In fact, we did an inventory at the time and had identified over 600 systems in place at our company to support the QMS, many of them manual. So we decided to create an enterprise project in partnership with our EHS friends to find that one tool that could meet all the needs. We selected ETQ, and the project and the journey with ETQ then began. Now, one of the problems we also had was the fact that getting your quality key performance indicator and metric data each month was also done very manually, and we had to wait for our plants to submit the information to us to identify complaints per million and so forth. And that process would take weeks, and then once it would come in, because it was different processes, different standards in place, we'd have to normalize all that data. So the June results would be ready in July. The July results in August and so forth, very time consuming and clunky. So with ETQ, we set up the system to be standardized. One QMS to support the entire company, all businesses, all plants, and we began deploying the tool with our first two modules, document control and CAPA, and then 5 more the next year, all the way up to 40 that we have in place today. Making sure that those systems were also set up to support environment, health, and safety as well. What was also really nice about the tool for us was that it connected those quality systems together. So for example, a complaint comes in to ETQ where we do an investigation. If that complaint has a high severity or we've noticed multiple of the same complaint, we might need to initiate a CAPA or a nonconformance, also done through ETQ. So the complaint can actually initiate the CAPA process, and from the CAPA, where we do our investigation and root cause analysis, we might identify the need to make a product change. And the product change process is also done through ETQ for us. So the CAPA can initiate the product change, and the product change might require new specifications, updated documents. Well, the documents like work instructions and procedures are also in ETQ. So the change control initiates the new version of a document. And that might trigger training of our employees on that updated document, also done through ETQ. So you can see how this connection is in place. But what's really exciting is that those connections tell a story. So when we're audited and an auditor wants information on something that happened years and years ago, I don't have to use my memory to think back of what happened at that point in time. Because I don't know about you, but I can barely remember what I had for breakfast yesterday, let alone why I made a change to a document 4 years ago. So looking at our records in ETQ, I can see that document change. I know it was changed, but I also see that it was tied back to that product change, which was tied back to a CAPA, which was tied back to the initial complaints that came in. So that story is there for us, not only now, but also in the future when someone else takes over for my job and needs to understand what happened at that point in time. So with ETQ, we've achieved a lot of benefits. I don't have time to go through all of them today, but I did want to share the top 5 with you. Besides, of course, major improvements to overall product quality. The first one is obvious. It was standardization. Now our plants and our businesses are all using the same QMS with the same tool to support that QMS, and that QMS steps our employees through the process. So they don't have to go and find a quality expert to know how to do this second step of this CAPA process because the tool guides them through it. So we have standards in place. Those standards also allow us to have good, clean data that helps drive our analytics and our reporting. So now our quality metrics, our quality KPIs, our quality dashboards are all standardized and real time. So you can access them at any point in time of the month to see how we're performing. But also, the standards allowed us to create one analytics solution that supports our entire company, not having to go and reinvent the wheel for every business. Standards allowed us to do that. The efficiency gain was also major for us. So many of you have to meet international standard certifications like ISO 9001 or ISO 13485 for medical device manufacturers, or FDA good manufacturing practices. A lot of that functionality and requirements for those certifications are actually built into ETQ. For example, document controls like version number and effective date and status all inherit into the tool itself. Electronic signature to make routing faster, built right into the tool. So we no longer have to have people on the shop floor going and printing documents and putting them into a binder and then putting 8 different binders around the plant for our shop floor to access and then make sure that those binders stay up to date. Instead, we have kiosks in the plant where our shop floor employees can open up and go into ETQ and open the document that they need and always see the latest approved version of that document. Cycle time visibility was also a major benefit for us, so that as you're assigned a task in ETQ, you were given a due date. It's very clear what that due date is, and as you approach that due date, you get reminders to make sure that you try to finish it on time, and another reminder when you're late. But then there's also escalation that emails your boss if you're even more late, which nobody wants. So it's a motivator to help get things done on time, which was a huge benefit for us to see our quality processes getting done much faster than we had ever hoped to have. And then finally, the compliance piece. Having all these processes in place allows us to be more compliant and meet changing compliance requirements much faster. So that as there's a change to an FDA GMP or ISO, for example, has a new requirement that says that your CAPAs should be communicated to other plants that you have that make the same kind of product, that type of functionality is easy for us to place into the system and then roll out and deploy globally very quickly for everybody versus doing one-offs for every business and every plant. So let me tell you a couple of stories of how we've used ETQ and some actual practical examples of some processes. The first example I'll share with you is Supplier Corrective Action Request, or SCAR, as we call it. It's a way to report problems and issues to your suppliers. Prior to ETQ, we had to do that through email. And the employees on the shop floor that recognized a defective raw material would have to go and figure out who the contact was at that specific supplier manufacturing location that we got the raw material from. That was time consuming for them and very difficult, let alone managing emails that come back with responses from the suppliers. We recognize this could be a major win for us to simplify this process and have it result in higher improvements with overall raw material quality. So we built a form in ETQ that allows our shop floor employees to report the defect, attach photographs of the defect right to the form, and they simply select from our master data in ETQ which supplier manufacturing site that is. And behind the scenes, we have supplier profile master data that our global quality teams manage that includes the contacts for that specific site, as well as that manufacturing location's ISO certifications, approvals, and so forth. That is connected directly with our SCAR form. So once our shop floor selects the supplier location that we have this problem with the material with, the contact information is automatically loaded right onto the form for them, and they can submit it. And at that moment, ETQ transmits the data to our ETQ supplier cloud, and the supplier receives an email with a hyperlink in it that says, you are assigned to a Kimberly-Clark SCAR, please click here, and they click on that link. It takes them right into our ETQ system. They see the information about the problem we're having, they see the photographs, and they can respond with their investigation, their root cause, containment, and so forth, right inside that form, our form, and they submit it, and that data is then transmitted back into our Kimberly-Clark ETQ system. And our shop floor is notified, so they can review that and determine if they accept that response or reject it, and if they reject it, the circle continues again with the supplier to get more information. So this process has really tremendously helped us improve overall raw material quality, because now it's easy to submit this from our side. The system takes care of a lot of the painful parts of maintaining the communication, and our suppliers are able to use this consistent way of communicating with us to identify where there's problems that need corrections to help improve overall quality of our materials, which then results in overall quality improvements for our finished products and higher customer satisfaction. And the last example I'll share with you is product change control. Prior to ETQ, we were doing this process manually. So as we wanted to take a product from idea, or either a new product or a product change from idea to commercialization, a manual process was in place to use email or even route documents physically. And we decided to digitize that process using ETQ, where we could then assign tasks to the people who were involved in the product change, people in marketing, people in quality, manufacturing, product safety, regulatory, manufacturing. Anybody who was involved with that product change was then tied to an action plan in the system that would then send out tasks to each of those people with, again, those clear due dates, letting them know what the expectation was to finish that task by, with reminders and escalation if needed. And then once they would finish, they would mark it off as done, attach objective evidence, and the project manager would be able to see all of the results. Well, that particular process for our very first business unit resulted after 1 year in an 80% improvement in cycle time of our product changes. 80%. Huge, significant for us. We couldn't believe it. Far exceeded our expectations. And really the secret sauce here was the due dates and the cycle time visibility, because the cycle time visibility allowed us to hone in on which steps of our process or which tasks were taking longer than expected to get done. And then we could work with those teams to help them improve their own internal processes. We did this again for the second business unit, and they achieved a 60% improvement. So very excited about product change process and what it means for us. So now you've heard a little bit of our overview of our journey with digital QMS. We are still on the journey. We have a lot of work to do. We are by no means anywhere near done, but we're very excited about the path that we're on and where we're heading with ETQ.